All right, starting with a top focus is sour in what can be seen as a targeted attack on Hindus in Australia. Indians holding the tricolour were viciously assaulted by Khalistani extremists in Melbourne on January 29th. Those are the visuals on your screens of the attack on the Hindus in Melbourne. The tricolour, in fact, Indians holding the tricolour were viciously assaulted by the Khalistani extremists in Melbourne on Sunday. The attack, in fact, occurred when pro-Bharat residents were peacefully opposing the Khalistan referendum that was organised by terror organisation Sikhs for Justice at Federation Square in Melbourne on Sunday. Meanwhile, India has now raised the attack on the tricolour with Australia. Manpreet Vora has tweeted, and I quote, "It was a privilege to call on Premier Victoria. The MP today discussed our strong and growing bilateral relationship, the violence in Melbourne yesterday and how to stop extremist Khalistani groups engaging in further activities prejudicial to peace and harmony." So India raking up this matter with the top command in Australia, saying that Australia must step in and that there should be urgent steps that need to be taken to increase the Khalistani upspring being seen in Melbourne in several of those incidents that are coming to light from Australia. We have Vishal Munga reporting live from Melbourne, in fact reporting from Bap's Temple in Melbourne. Vishal, if you can take us once again through what is known so far. India, of course, has raised the matter with the Australian High Command. What are the Australian officials saying as far as a probe into this incident is concerned?
I'm right now standing at one of the temple which was vandalized by the pro-Khalistani groups. There were slogans of Khalistan, Zindabad written outside this temple. And this is just one of the temples. There were 3 temples which were really attacked by these pro-Khalistani groups. That is the allegation. Now, what I can tell you is that yesterday what has happened has really shocked the Hindu community here living in Melbourne. They were protesting peacefully against the referendum that was going on, and suddenly these pro-Khalistani group people came in and started bashing them. As of now, no strict action has been taken, although the Indian High Commission has met the Victoria Premier Dan Andrews and informed him about the whole incident. And they're trying to put pressure upon the Victorian government and the Victoria Police, but no strong action has been taken. That is what the Hindu organizations are alleging. They are saying that strict action should be taken against these pro-Khalistani groups who've been trying to disturb peace and harmony among people living here in Melbourne, in Australia. Now, there was a big referendum which was carried out, and there were certain Hindu organizations which had written to the government saying that this is being backed by SFJ, Sikhs for Justice, which is a terror outfit banned in India. But the government of the day did not take action on that and did not stop the referendum. And then during the referendum, when these peaceful protesters were marching, these pro-Khalistani group people came and started backing up. They broke the tricolour, and now what we are hearing is that no strict action has been taken. That is what the allegation is. But what I can tell you right now is there is a discontent among the Hindu community here in Melbourne. 3 temples were vandalized. This Sikh for Justice referendum conducted. These pro-Khalistani groups had backed up these people holding Indian tricolour, and that is a cause of concern from here for people living in Australia.
Vishal, stay with us. If you can help us understand what is the priest of the temple saying? Is there a palpable fear among the Hindus living in this area? And also we understand that the Australian Hindu Association has written a letter as well to the Australian officials about their grievances and saying how this is a matter of urgent consideration by the Melbourne officials.
Yeah, that's true. I was trying to contact the officials of the Hindu temple, but they are right now not in the temple. They've told me to come tomorrow, but in a press release, they have always maintained that there should be peace and harmony among the people. They are really concerned about the safety of the temples. Until now, nobody has been arrested for the vandalism, the anti-India slogans that were put on the walls of the temple. Now, this is just one of the temples. The other temple, which is in the heart of the city, was also vandalized. Till now, the Victorian police has not been able to arrest someone. But indeed, what they say is that the investigation is still on. If you talk about the Hindu community, large number of people are saying they're really concerned about these kind of things really happening. They are concerned that they used to go to gurudwaras. Now these gurudwaras are under the control of pro-Khalistani groups. That is what the allegation is. Now, Hindu organizations have written a letter to the Victorian government and asked the central government, the state government and the central government to really act hard on these pro-Palestinian groups. But as of now, the police is really investigating the matter. What we have come to know is that the police has recorded statement of one of the person. But indeed, last time how police really acted in Vishal Zood case, that is what the Hindu community really want, that there should be a strict action as they did in the Vishal Zood case. But right now, the whole message that is coming out is that although the Indian High Commission has raised up this matter with the Victorian government, the perception being considered is that there is no strict action against these people. Although the Victorian government and the Victorian police is saying that they are committed that the culprit would be booked and the justice would be delivered.
All right, stay with us, Vishal, while we just tell our viewers what has been happening in Melbourne. In yet another hate attack which has happened on the Indians in Melbourne. It was just yesterday when Indians who were carrying the Tiranga were attacked by pro-Khalistani leaders. We are given to understand that the Indian envoy in Melbourne has taken up the matter with the Melbourne officials as well. In fact, not just this, we've also accessed copies of letters that have been written by the Australian Hindu Association to stop the referendum event in Melbourne. We have a senior executive editor, Abhishek Kapoor, also joining us. Abhishek, if you can share with us your perspective, your reading of the kind of attacks which has been happening in Melbourne, particularly the latest one in which Indians were attacked by the Khalistani people.
To begin with, Samiksha, this is the third time that a Khalistani episode has happened in Melbourne in the last 1 month itself. Which clearly indicates towards a coming together of or activation of a sleeping Khalistani cell, which obviously, as always, is guided by the Pakistani deep state wherever they are working. But then origins go back to Pakistan because it's essentially an ISI project. So those things should be clear that this is being done at the behest of somebody. Now, next is that there seems to be an element of intelligence failure on the part of Australians. And that's something which is worrisome because remember, if you indulge with these kind of sentiment, separatism, which goes on to terrorism, as it has happened in the case of Khalistanis as well, you go the Canada way and see what has happened in Canada. There are pockets and islands where even the Canadian state's writ does not run. And despite that, if the Canadians continue to indulge, it's to the detriment of humanity and the manner in which the entire issue of terrorism is seen. The Canadian state is seen as indulging with terror. And what we are seeing in Australia is beginning of a journey which can culminate with terror if not really nipped in the bud. And that's why I think a worried India has made an outreach. Our High Commissioner in Canberra, Manpreet Vohra, going there and meeting the administration in Victoria, the province where Melbourne is, and essentially telling them that they have to really look at it not just from the law and order point of view, which really also is something which should be worrying the Australians, but even the larger issue of intelligence-based operation if there is an attempt to cause a long-term damage to communal fabric of Australia and possibly indulge in terror activities from their soil. So this is not something which the Australians would appreciate. The difference vis-a-vis Canada is that Australia and India have a lot in common in terms of looking in the same direction. For example, when it comes to China challenge, so there is no reason why on terror also the two nations can work in tandem. And that's why perhaps this outreach that has been made, we are as yet awaiting a response from the Australian side. But to begin with, I think India, by making that outreach, has made it clear that we are really not appreciating in any manner this upsurge in Khalistani incidents in Melbourne and from Australian soil.
Well, absolutely, Abhishek, stay with us. And do you think the Australian government also has to answer a lot at this point, given the fact that there have been series of attacks on Hindu temples in Melbourne? But stay with us. We have Mishal Monga as well from outside the temple. If you would want to take a question from him, who's reporting from just outside the very temple where the Khalistani people were active.
All right, if I have to take that question, Vishal, you see, yesterday the violence that happened, the fracas that happened with all the, sticks and swords in hands, I think those must be the scenes that must have really got the Australians worried. Are you seeing that sense of worry and tension on the ground with the local administration in Melbourne after those kind of pictures that came out? Not very usual for Australians to see sword-wielding, stick-wielding men coming out, attacking people. Are you getting a sense? Have you got some response from the Australian side explaining why there is an element of intelligence failure in not looking at these events before they happen?
See, I'll tell you, Australia is a very peaceful country, and if you talk about Melbourne, Melbourne is very peaceful. These kind of incidents are just one of thousands incidents. It doesn't really happen. These kind of things doesn't happen in Australia or in Melbourne. Now, it was really shocking for the people who were moving around, and they never thought that this would happen. You saw the flags, the poles being used for hitting out, and also the swords being wielded out. This was really a shock for the people at large. What I can tell you is that in the Hindu community, a lot of leaders I've spoken to, they're really concerned about how the SFJ has really perpetrated itself on ground. There's been heavy spending, lot of advertisement, lot of banners across various suburbs of Victoria. Lot of money was spent. There was cars, there was car rallies. A lot of people from Gurudwara were moving out in large numbers, and it was a highly mobilized incident that was taking place. A lot of money has been spent on the referendum. But if you talk about the people at large, they are saying that this should not have happened. Australia is a multicultural country where all people from different culture really coexist peacefully. And this kind of incident happening has really shocked people. People are really concerned about their safety. Although the Australian government
Vishal,
was
saying the question was, what is the reaction of the administration there? People are shocked and concerned, but is the government really shocked and concerned as well? And if yes, what is the reaction coming in?
See, this incident has been going on from last 1 month. The standard reply of the government is that it is a matter of freedom of expression. And in a multicultural society like Australia, this is just a freedom of speech. They cannot stop this. And that is why this whole incident has really blown out of proportion. 3 temples attacked, nobody arrested. You can understand the seriousness, the gravity of the situation. Till now, what we can tell you is that incident happened and the police is still investigating the matter. Although what I can tell you is that there is a large cloud of these pro-Khalistani groups here in politics, and that is why the allegation by the Hindu groups is that the government or the police is not taking action. But indeed, I think that is mere allegation, because the Australian government is really concerned about the safety of the people. The Australian police is also a very professional force which is concerned about the safety of the people. They are investigating the matter, but indeed things have really gone out of proportion. Had the precautions been taken earlier, things would have been different. But indeed, the Australian government considered this as an incident where the freedom of expression of speech is involved, so they don't want to get involved into this whole process. Even the Hindu groups have written to the Australian government about banning the...
All right, so we'll have to leave it at that. Yes, we'll have to leave it at that. Abhishek and Vishal, thank you so much. Cutting